With due permission of Chief Guest and Principal Sir, shall I start the program?
Agreed.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person, some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for, and we are the change that we seek. I am Jayashree Swai, lecturer in economics, the program coordinator of this e-expert talk. And on behalf of entire fraternity of Team DSBM, I extend warm welcome to each and everyone out here to this forum. In recent time, we are hit upon by global pandemic due to novel coronavirus, which led to complete lockdown in India. Besides pouring effect on human life, novel strain of COVID-19 has the potential to significantly slow down the global economy. It has considerably impacted every aspect of business operations. The induced lockdown led to displacement of millions of migrants, job losses, and economy hitting at the rock bottom level. Henceforth, the major challenge lies here to build up a resilient recovery in the world economy. In this context, the flow of foreign direct investment is an opportunity and fundamental to support the economic revival. Thus, this time, Team DSPM proudly brings to you an e-expert talk on the topic which is the need of the time, the FDI and the world economic recovery. Before proceeding further, I would like to mention that the entire cosmos is surrounded by darkness. To cast away darkness from our life, Almighty has created light. Thus, I would like to state that an auspicious beginning leads towards successful completion of task. Therefore, it is the time to eat lighting the inaugural lamp. Shubham karoti kalyanam, arogya dhana sampatam, satra buddhi vinashaya, deepam jyoti namastude. We pray our salutation to the light which brings auspiciousness, prosperity, good health, abundance of money and wealth, and destruction of enemies' intellect. Om Shanti. Now I would like to invite Archita Mahapatra of BCom second semester to present the welcome address. Over to you, Archita.
प्रयत्नेन करिये सुसीधिर जनानम प्रयत्नेन सद्बुद्धि वृद्धिर जनानम प्रयत्नेन युधे जया स्या जनानम प्रयत्नो विधया. Hard work makes people successful. Hard work strengthens the wisdom. Hard work makes us win in the battle. So keep hard working, keep doing hard work. Revered viewers, in this erudite event, I could not cease myself for commencing my discourse with such a powerful Vedic message. Greetings of this pleasant morning. I am Archita Mahapatra, and I deem it a privilege to get an opportunity to introduce the valued luminaries. At the outset, I would like to proclaim that we do have a refined persona who is an eminent academician with expertise in subjects like business, management, and economics. Throughout her career, she has worked with many reputed organizations and has simultaneously contributed to the readers' community through various national and international level publications. Apart from being an active speaker in several TV shows and explaining the audience the main economic issues and challenges Egypt is facing, she is also the Vice President of the Economic Committee of the Future of Nations. Thus, she has presented papers to the Egyptian government related to the economic issues like Egypt's foreign debt, along with suggestions to deal with the increasing inflation rate. At the present, the renowned academician is a faculty of business, economics, and political science in the Department of Business Administration at the British University in Egypt, Cairo. She is none other than Dr. Zeenam Nawar. Ma'am, on behalf of Team DSPM, I would like to extend a warm welcome to your esteemed self to this digital platform of DSPM. May I now take the opportunity to proclaim that we do also have a transformational leader amongst us who is known for his problem solving expertise. No matter how challenging the situations might be, he's ever motivated to emerge out of it as an inspiring persona. Yes, I'm talking about our dot principal, Dr. D.N. Mishra. Sir, it is not only our honor to get our career nurtured under your able guidance, but at the same time, we are privileged enough to get a principal like you who continuously works for the welfare of the students and simultaneously is ever ready to welcome and implement innovative suggestions from the students' community. On behalf of students community of TSPM, I extend you a cordial welcome to this event. I must
Thank
also
you,
welcome,
Archita. Thank you, Archita.
thank you, sir. I must also welcome the coordinator of TSPM, Dr. Anjali Panda, and the esteemed members of the Faculty Council. Welcome, teachers. It's my duty to also extend a hearty welcome to the viewers who have joined us not only via Zoom meeting, but also through Facebook and YouTube live streaming. With this, I would like to conclude my part. Have a great moment ahead. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Achita. Now, I would like to invite the inspiring leader of our institution, the principal of DSBM, Dr. D.N. Mishra, to deliver his valuable message. Please, sir.
Thank you, Madam Joyce Swine, moderator of this e-export talk on the FDI and the world economic recovery. Good morning, all the viewers of DSPM digital platform. Esteemed chief guest, Dr. Jainab, is it? Dr.
Yes.
Panda, coordinator of the DSBM, members of the Faculty Council of DSBM, in my dear students in the DSBM digital platform, both in the Zoom and YouTube platform. Madam, it is a wonderful opportunity and simultaneously a great privilege for the DSBM family to have the gracious presence on behalf of the British University in Egypt. Madam, I just want to share our understanding. We treat Dr. Jainab as the important stakeholders of DSBM and great well-wisher for the DSBM to empowering our students. In this particular COVID-19 situation, we are not able to allow the students in our campus because of the restriction by both government of Odisha and government of India. Madam, last 18 months, I just want to share you, our students are doing hard work and adopted the innovative practices for prospective and quality engagement. We have already conducted 22 webinars involving the professors across world and very eminent CEO of the different companies in phased manner. And I have suggested my students will continue the same spirit and energy so that we will not repent any time due to COVID-19. We are not able to be part of certain event management activities, seminar, panel discussion, etc. Madam, I just want to draw your attention. The DSPM made all efforts to convert these challenges into opportunities. Madam, I'm very honest to tell you, in normal year, academic year, we are able to conduct around 15 to 16 activities during the academic year. But madam, in the last year, we have conducted around 25 events for the students, so that more students are getting opportunities to be part of the event management team, like the anchor or giving the vote of thanks and preparing the different videos. The way, madam, you have seen, the IT club is always taking pragmatic steps for creating the program. Madam, I want to draw your attention. On Saturday, we have already organized a wonderful webinar, Impact of COVID-19 in Indian economy, particularly in the trade. I just want to draw your attention. That day we have three eminent guests, Professor Sijit Misra, Indira Gandhi Institute of Mumbai, and Professor Alok Mishra, Central University, Hyderabad, and one very eminent bankers from SIDBI. He also addressed the students, and we are also, my students are enlightened of their expert talk and guiding the students for better tomorrow. So madam, we are really happy and blessed to have your association with the small and beautiful institutions in the years to come. I hope within process of time, this restriction of COVID-19 will be withdrawn, and we are waiting that Professor Jainab will be visiting to Odisha and particularly to the DSBM. I convey my best wishes to all my dear students to have wonderful career, even if there is an adverse impact of COVID-19. Thank you everybody being part of this DSBM digital platform. Thank you. Over to event management team.
Thank you so much, sir. Delay. I would like to invite our honorable expert, Dr. Jainab Nawar, to address the virtual gathering and enlighten our students. During the talk, our students and all the viewers of this program may post their questions in the chat box, and we will take those questions in our interactive session. Over.
Yes. Okay. Shall I start, dear? Shall I start, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. First, I would like to thank Dr. Mishra and thank you all for this nice and fruitful presentation, and also thank you, Dr. Mishra, for just that you are considering us as partner. Definitely, we are partners, and definitely it gave me a great pleasure to be part of D.A.V talk and part of the faculty talk for each and every while. Since I came 3 years ago, I had spent a wonderful time at D.A.V University and also at the faculty, and it gives me a great pleasure to be a consistent and to be a continuous speaker at your esteemed college. I'm so happy for being invited, maybe for the fourth time, but it adds to me a lot. And again, before starting my presentation and talking about economics and FDI, I will start by saying that yes, it's the hardworking. This is what adds to students. The hardworking, this is what adds to nations. By hardworking, a lot of nations have been sustainable and have been resilient to the COVID-19. By hardworking, our students worldwide and our students in each and every part of the world, they should continue their work and they should continue their hard working. Even if we do have a COVID-19, we should struggle and we should work more, and we should challenge ourselves and challenge others. And this is the real and true meaning of being in this life, to challenge others and to challenge the circumstances. And this is the real truth, and this is the real meaning of being in a struggle and being of the hard work and being achiever, whatever the circumstances and whatever the challenges that we are facing, we have to continue and keep on going. So I will start now my presentation, which I do hope that it will be a short one. So I will share the screen, just a second, yes. So I hope it's now shared. Yes, 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 yes. So FDI and the word economic recovery. So the screen is clear. The sharing of the slides is clear by now. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
It's clear.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And the voice is clear also? Okay. Okay. So now from Egypt and from the land of the pharaohs, we'll talk about FDI. Going to India, the land of the magic. I still say, I'm still continuous, and it's a quote. I always telling this Egypt and India. We are sharing history. We are sharing beautiful sites. We are sharing struggle. Again, talking about the economic effect of COVID-19 and the FDI and how countries have been continuous working in this type of a struggle against COVID-19. But here, Egypt and India used to struggle against a lot of political and economic issues since 60s. So again, we have a joint history, a joint struggle against several issues and problems. We struggle against poverty. We jointly struggle against terrorism and other other issues and unpleasant things that we used to struggle and we used to work hard. So foreign direct investment and the world economy, just being back from Egypt and India and the beautiful history and the beautiful and joint history between the two nations. And now going to the world and what's going on surrounding us, which is very important, and especially when we talk about the foreign direct investment. I will not waste our time talking about what is foreign direct investment, because we all know what is foreign direct investment. But before talking about the foreign direct investment, and when I'm saying that there is a shrinkage in the FDI, so I will start by these few slides to explain to you why we have a shrinkage of the FDI. Again, we have what we call the death toll, COVID-19. Problems, unpleasant numbers of people who were affected, number of deaths everywhere. I'm sorry to tell you about this. Again, we are in one of the darkest spots along COVID-19. This is one of the darkest spots along the human history, and this is what made the COVID-19 and what we are facing now is so severe. And the transformation of this type of virus also that creates a lot of uncertainties around the world. This is what makes the FDI, the foreign direct investment, is worry and is feeling that a degree of instability. This is why they don't take decisions to expand or to move around different countries in the world. So again, shrinkage of the world economy, less economic activities. Maybe in the year 2021, there was more hopes of further expansion and further economic recovery. But again, it all depends on the degree of efficiency of the vaccination. And also it depends on abiding by the policies and abiding by health, whatever precautions by the individuals and by the population in different countries. So nothing is certain. There is nothing certain about COVID-19. So we are facing a humanitarian crisis by all means. The global GDP had been declined heavily. All the countries of the world had been affected. Central banks had been distorted, even for the government themselves. If the government is working to attract more FDI, if the government of a certain country is working to whatever, do a certain type of reform in some type of policies to attract more foreign direct investors in different sectors. Now, I'm sorry to tell you that maybe these governments will now be so busy to deal with the COVID-19 consequences and also to work on health issues that are related to their population. So there will be another window for government to focus on FDIs and attracting more FDIs. What else? The degree of uncertainty that COVID-19 had created, and all of this had affected the foreign direct investors, because the foreign direct investors, they would like to go and invest in a certain country. So they are waiting a certain profit margin, they are waiting a certain gains and profits. So now for this degree of uncertainty, so they are doing, just doing a recalculation, and then they are just judging the situation. How do they are going to gain from their investments in a country X, for example? What about the uncertainty level? What about the policies? What about the population? To what extent there will be spread of COVID-19 in a certain nation? Following up the WHO reports concerning the number of infected in the country. So now we are facing, as the worldwide and as the countries around the world, not only in Asia, a degree of uncertainty, a lot of variables coming into our economic equation. So the issue that we do have, that there's nothing clear about the world economy. There is nothing usual anymore. So what about the FDI? What they should do? Again, port and shipping that had been locked down a year ago, it has an effect now. Yeah, if you want to understand deeply what happened to the FDI around the world, so these slides are answering to you what happened to the FDI. A degree of uncertainty, a lack of information, a lot of variables, a lot of changes. Important shipping ports had been locked down a year ago, and this affected, of course, you are a student of the management school, and you know that there are contracts, there are even agreements between nations, and all of this had a certain duration. So there is an effect that is coming now of the year 2021. This effect came as a result of the lockdown happened a year ago. So again, what about ports? What about shipping? Safety on ships, the supply chain, and also we had a new emerging problems now in the field of logistics and shipping that it came lately on the scene also, plus what we do have in COVID-19, what happened in Suez Canal, and one of the big ships and big container ships had a problem in the Suez Canal because of the big size of this container ship. And now the worldwide manufacturer of containers, they are just again reconsidering the size of the ships and to what extent it may create problems in waterways and important waterways like Suez Canal maybe, or Panama or whatever. So a lot of variables is coming into the scene. So you can imagine to what extent the FDIs now or any foreign investor is in a crisis, actually. He doesn't know what to do, even if you have an army of experts and economic experts and management experts. What shall we do in this variables and this changing incidents and this a lot of things coming into our world at once? A transforming virus. Every year it has a different categories and characteristics than the previous. So again, dropping sharply in the sea and air cargo. And this has happened a year ago, and it still has an effect till now, because what used to be manufactured a year ago will not be manufactured. So it will have a future consequences for the company itself in terms of production, in terms of profit, in terms of plans, and all of this is reflecting on the company's performance. So again, each and every country around the world is trying again to reconsider their plans and to reconsider their sectors that maybe it would be attractive for the FDIs. But what they are going to do, what shall be done in this hard times of COVID-19 and Corona? Some companies, and we all know that it's, for example, what I'm just showing you, it's for examples, car companies, they are totally shutting down for their operations. They didn't find parts. Some of the famous manufacturer of toys for children, for example, also are suffering. A lot of multinational companies and also national companies were suffering. So if you imagine that some of the national companies and some of the national activities were locked down and there was a shutdown, and also the FDIs were shut down. So if the FDI is depending on a national company to provide with whatever raw material or provide with a type of service, and this national company is not able to continue in the market, so this will be affecting the business of the FDI. If the FDI is going to bring the resources from somewhere which is cheaper, it will not be the FDI or the company will not able to do this, like what happened to car companies at the USA. Here in Egypt, we have some companies had closed totally in the textiles and garments industry because of also of COVID-19. So it has an effect everywhere. If we talk about FDIs, we have to know an FDI. We have to know the relation of the economic growth. We can say that, yes, it's the problem that it's the multinational companies who were not able to bring their raw material. So, and also the degree of uncertainty and all of these variables coming into the equations and things that are related to logistics and supply chain. Yes, they are part, and also the economic growth of countries still a part, because there is a positive relationship between FDI and growth in GDP. If we have more FDI, definitely we will have more GDP growth. And this is maybe it will explain why some of the countries, they had a negative economic growth or GDP growth because of COVID-19. But also we have another relation, which is very important. If we have more GDP growth, if we have more growth, this will enhance more foreign direct investors to come into our country. Because when we are doing fine in terms of good reform, good policies, infrastructure, and good and sustainable economic growth, so this, of course, will support the FDIs to come into our countries. But if our GDP growth was negative, as we have here, so definitely this will be one of the factors that will definitely discourage the FDIs to come into some countries. So we add another factor to the equation, which is the GDP growth. Here we just are having an estimate about the GDP growth around the world for the US, for example, and for the Euro area and for the Japan. We'll see in the forecast some appears a negative forecast, which is unfortunately tells something that the forecast of the economic growth for the last year and for some countries were a negative. And then for the year 2021 started to be seen as positive, but still, if you talk about recovery, it is a slow recovery. It's uncertain recovery, and nothing for sure. Again, here for this nice graph, it tells us how the economic growth is working. And the ratios of the GDP growth here, we have for the advanced economies, it totally dropped down for 2021. And of course, this will eventually discourage the FDI from coming into any country because there is a recession, there is some sort of slowing down economic activities. So if I'm a foreigner investor, why shall I go to a certain country to invest? And I know that there is a slowing down, so definitely there will be no profits. So of course, as a foreign direct investor, I will recalculate, and also I will think thousands of times before entering any foreign market in these circumstances. Here we have emerging economies, but still the advanced economies were the most who had the large harm because of COVID-19. And again, I will just explain this in further slides, that why some economies were more resilient than others. Again, I'm here in this slide. I try to show you how this negative economic growth, of course, these are all discouraging factors for any FDI to move anywhere. Again, one of the discouraging effects for FDI is also the decrease that happened in the prices of a lot of products. Yes, the decrease in the prices of the raw material, maybe it's good for the FDI, but if he can get it, but if there is a lockdown and he cannot find the suitable mean to transport the raw material, so he's not going to benefit from this decrease of the prices anymore. And also the decrease in prices is not good also because at the end, the FDI, they would like to make profits. So if he manufactured a certain product and he would like to sell it at the world market, if he can sell it, so at what price he's going to sell it at, where we do have a lower demand, where we do have a lower purchasing power, where we do have low prices and recession everywhere. Again, this is again the GDP growth in some countries around the world. For some low income countries, that was not, they don't have, they were less fortunate, unfortunately. For some of the countries, we'll find we have 23%. For a country like South Sudan, for example. So we have countries around the world had disasters in their economic growth. Maybe for China and maybe for other Asian countries, although they have been affected, but things were better because of their ability to deal with the crisis in a speedy and organized way. And this is what made the difference between countries in dealing with the COVID-19. To what extent they are fast in moving, to what extent and in what sectors they are working. And this is what had made the big difference in the recovery. Again, this is, of course, what we talk about the Latin America, the most affected part of the world. This is the worst situation ever had happened. This is the part of the world that had been affected in economic terms, in social terms, in FDI terms. It was, unfortunately to say, it is the worst part of the world that had been affected of COVID-19 in everything. Here it's for Africa and for the Arab region, and for actually here for Egypt, the forecast was positive for 2020, and again we kept it positive for 2021. Here also for Egypt, we had worked on a lot of measures, a lot of fast and speedy policies, a lot of packages for the poor. And this is what made us deal efficiently with the COVID-19. But we affected, of course, by the shrinkage that happened in the FDI and FDI inflows coming into Africa. So again, I'm just telling how the private consumption had been affected in the area of the Asian companies, and in how that the small and medium enterprises was the main key engine of a lot of economic growth for a lot of countries. But especially for the Asian countries, the SMEs had been hugely affected because of COVID-19. So it's all about chaos created everywhere. Here about the African countries, and the African countries, it was a disaster by itself. Although the effect of the COVID-19 was less for the African countries, however, they suffered a lot because their budget were not allowing them to buy the vaccination. This is why the G20 and the G7 and a lot of of important meetings for the world leaders are asking to bring more resources to Africa. So what about the foreign direct investment? I think it's what I just told you. It's enough to tell us about the foreign direct investment. Having this chaos everywhere, this degree of also variability. You know, in some countries you may have a positive effect in GDP growth. Others you will have a negative by negative 23%. Prices, less prices in parts of the world, logistics, supply chains, transformation of the virus, vaccination also, and the degree of efficiency of vaccination in areas in the world and in other areas it was not efficient. So for the FDI, it had decreased to the global FDI had been shrinking to be in 35% in 2020 due to COVID-19. So there is a shrinkage for the inflow of FDIs everywhere by 35%, which is huge. The most affected were the developed ones, the developed economies. The developed economies were the most affected because of COVID-19 and also in the FDI direction. Again, lockdown caused by the COVID-19 around the world slowed down existing investment projects, and this is normal. The recession that happened led that a lot of multinational companies, they reassess a new project, and this is happening worldwide now for the multinational companies. They do think of new ways and new means of manufacturing. They do think about the lead time, the manufacturing and the production time. If they can outsource more part of their work to other companies. So they have to do this because of what they are facing, and they have to cut from their costs. Again, for the FDI, the most affected for the foreign direct investment was the developed countries. They had been affected by falling down by 58%. Maybe for the developing ones, they have been affected by a small number, 8%. The good news about the FDI is that still there is a good flow of course, it's not good, Yani, but relatively to what is happening worldwide, still there is a flow to Asia. Why the Asian countries still receiving a flow of FDI? I will come to the nice word that had been said to our student. It's by hard working, and this is what happened. So again, I'm just showing you here to what extent the variability of the FDIs and how that we have the transition economies that have been affected. Now we have, this is of course the total world economy that had been the FDI. This is this line is showing us the movement of the FDI. What about developed economies and what about the developing ones? We can see that at least for the developing ones and for the part of COVID-19, there's some sort of resilience. There's some sort of being able to deal with the crisis rather than the developed countries who had been affected totally and was not successful enough to deal with the crisis. They are totally disturbed. So again, what makes maybe the issue more worse that the COVID-19 had also, if you talk about sustainable development and goals for sustainable development and SDG, and encouraging the world to work on certain sectors and investing in certain important sectors for humans. But unfortunately, to tell you that the FDI had been affected so bad in areas like infrastructure, transport infrastructure, power generation. This is very normal because the government now are working. If the government is going to do the infrastructure by itself, so now the government is engaged in other types of investment and providing the necessities to their situations to their population, so they don't have time for this type of infrastructure. They don't have time even to encourage the private sector to work on this. There's no time. Of course, for health investment, but here we mean by health investment, health infrastructure like building hospitals. But of course, COVID-19 had brought millions and trillions of profits for the health companies for companies who are working on health sector, and also the research and development for the vaccination, and all of this had brought a hell of money to certain companies, certain pharmaceutical companies around the world. But what about the rest of the world in terms of health infrastructure, in terms of hospitals, local units, clinics? It all have been affected because of COVID-19. Of course, investment in education, our FDI in education have been affected. Food and agriculture, FDI in food and agriculture also have been affected. So what had happened in the FDI for the project or for the types of project that all the countries around the world and also for the UN are hoping that there are several investments or the FDI to invest in several sectors to fight poverty and to deal with any problems related to the standard of living of the population. All of this have been not gone, but have been affected. This is why the world is worried that maybe the agenda of 2030 will not be implemented or will not be efficiently. Again, the declining of FDI by 80% to Europe, declining 40% to North America. We can imagine to what extent that these numbers are so sharp, this declining is very sharp, and how it will affect if you are going to say that FDI will bring more economic growth. So now FDI will not bring to these nations any more economic growth. If FDIs are contributing to economic growth of Europe, so now it will not contribute to this economic growth. So definitely it explains why maybe some of the European countries are having a negative economic growth. Same to the United States and the North America. Again, dropping down in Latin America. Latin America was the most affected region in the world, which is so, which is actually was, even they were affected in some points for their GDP growth and for their FDI, even worse than China, which is, raise a question about the efficiency of the management of these countries and the resilience in dealing with the COVID-19 and dealing with the bad consequences of the virus, which has a lot of consequences on the economy, starting from the economic growth starting from the slowing down, the recession, and now for any external resources that is coming into the country and bring more money, which is the FDI, now are stopped. Again, we are saying that, but for the Asian countries, still there is some sort of increase in the FDI, which is good. Here, of course, Africa have been affected. The poorest part of the world have been affected, but a slightly small effect. So again, if we talk about this, the structure, weak and vulnerable economics have been affected hugely by the FDI. Island states and also landlocked developing countries, all of these have been affected hugely. The Asian, however, for Asian countries, it had been working well. So why it's for the Asian part of the world, there was a better FDI. For the East Asia, for example, we'll find that FDI had increased by 21%. China, Hong Kong, all of this, there is an increase of the FDI, although that we have a worldwide crisis. I would say that part of the success why China still achieve or still able to achieve and being an attractive economy for the FDI maybe this is because of the type of industries in China. Here, some of the reports, they are saying that the growth that had happened for the FDI for China, for example, this is led by technology-related industries, e-commerce, and research and development. So the question here we are addressing, why having this international crisis, worldwide crisis, some economies were able to deal? The answer of the question, part of it is the research and development, having innovative means of dealing and running business. Still, the FDI around the world, they still have some sort of cash and they would like to invest it. So they will still look for the most stable economies to go and invest in, even if their investment by a small proportion relative to what they had used to invest before, but still they will look for China and they will also look for India. For the Southeast Asian, unfortunately, they were not lucky. For Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, it all recorded a fall in and declining of the FDI. Again, the ability of the nation, the ability of the country to deal with the situation, the speedy reaction, the speedy actions, policies, how to contain the situation, how to put plans. This is what had made the differences between countries and between regions around the world. Again, South Asia, there was, of course, an increase in the FDI, especially in India. Again, why in India? Again, the investment in ICT and technology, all of this had brought chances into India, although we have a worldwide crisis, major investment in health infrastructure and information technology and ICT. So for the countries who are putting a diversity in their investments and their FDI work, I think they were more resilient in keeping the FDI at their borders and maybe attracting others. So it depends on the type of industry that the country is working on to attract more FDIs. So maybe for the countries who are depending on health sector, type of ICT technologies and research and development and new and innovative means for manufacturing, I think those are the countries who are able to keep the FDIs and bring new ones into their borders. Again, for the outflow from Asia, still China is giving to Africa. A big proportion from the outflows that is coming from China, it goes to Africa. China kept this proportion even if there is this worldwide crisis. So what about the recovery? Is there a recovery somewhere? I tried to read a lot about the recovery and the scenarios of recovery, and I didn't find an agreed scenario of a recovery. So finally, I found an OECD report, nice report saying that there is no ordinary recovery, which is right. No one knows what's going to happen next. We cannot tell anything for firm. We cannot confirm a reality. And this is what makes the FDI cannot judge the situation. And this is what explains why the FDI is withdrawal from certain countries, the lack of information about what is going to happen next. We don't know what is going to happen next. So for some of the reports, and I had read a lot about this, about the recovery scenarios. I had even been asked a lot from my students and in several TV shows, and I said, there is no certain scenario for the recovery. Some of the reports, they are saying that it depends on the country itself. It depends on the policies. It depends on the degree of resilience of the economy. It depends on the health, whatever culture of the population and efficiency of the vaccination. the degree of efficiency of also the vaccination. If there are other scenarios for transforming of the virus, we don't know. So we will say that for some reports, they see that some countries, maybe the recovery, like here for the OECD report, they're saying about 18 months for Korea and United States. Europe is expected to take 3 years of recovery. Mexico and South Africa, it could be from 3 to 5 years. So we don't have a clear answer for the recovery. If anyone is going to tell you the recovery will take a certain whatever positive relation or whatever, this is not right, because we don't know what's going to happen. And this is the dilemma of the issue. And this is why the FDI cannot expand. And this is why the shrinkage of the FDI worldwide. So again, I just would like to finalize my talk by showing you nice sites here from Egypt, the beautiful land and the land of the Nile. And again, this is beautiful sites from the Red Sea and also for the Islamic places. And thank you so much for giving me these opportunities. And I hope to see you in Egypt soon. And also I would say that I still believe in happy India. And I hope that this crisis will end so soon. And then we will come back into our normal, or at least a new normal, which will have a lot of hopes and a lot of achievements. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The presentation was really very knowledgeable and resourceful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, my dear.
Moving on to the interactive session. Dear students, the forum is now open for discussion. Okay, I have received many questions. Ma'am, can we take some questions here?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course, my dear.
Okay, the first question is from Smruti Snigdha Sahu.
Yes.
From BCom second sem.
Yes.
Smruti Snigdha, am I audible? You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Smriti Snigdha Sahu from BCom second sem. Ma'am, I have one question. Ma'am, can you just let me know what are the important factors that to attract FDI?
Yes, my dear. The important factors that attract FDI.
Yes, ma'am.
We are, as economists, when we are telling what are the factors that truly existed in each and every country, that it means a lot for any foreign investor when coming and invest in a country. Of course, it is the policies and regulations that are related to investment. Policies and regulations means how many days that they are going to start their business, the taxation policies, customs policies, any policy or regulation that are related to the establishment of his company and dealing with the government. So this is why when government are doing some sort of reforming of the policies and regulations and making things easier for the investor, of course, the government is going to attract the foreign direct investments. This is number one. Number two, of course, the political and economic environment. If we move into more democratic nations, if the economy is stable, more economic growth, this of course will enhance and also encourage the foreign direct investors to come to any country. The education level and also the HDI level, you know that there is a human development index that put a categories for the degree of human development for any nation. So, and also there is a new a measurement which is called adjusted human development. So that brings also equality into the equation of human development of nations. So this is also a factor, the degree of equality, the degree of services, the degree of human development, and also the infrastructure projects existed in a country. So all of this are like a package that enhances and also encourages more FDIs to come into a certain country.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Smriti. The second question is from Swagat Jena
Yes.
of BBA Second Sem. Swagat, unmute yourself.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Swagat Jaina from BBA Second Sem, and my question is, what policy efforts can be taken to mitigate the negative effects of FDI contraction?
What are the policies to contain the negative effects of COVID-19?
Yes, ma'am.
Related to what? To FDI?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I will tell you. To contain the effects of of what is happening worldwide now, and to deal with the issue of COVID-19 and its effect on FDIs, I see that what government can do, and this is what actually eventually some government had done, is to provide more incentives to FDIs. But I'm starting to worry about to what extent they would give them incentives, because incentives can have a range. Lower taxation, more reform for policies and regulations, better if the country can work on a better infrastructure, any change of the current situation that will encourage more FDIs to coming into the country. But not all of the countries are able to do this. For example, here in Egypt, we had done a lot of infrastructure projects, hoping to have more foreign direct investors coming into our land. And we have a new industrial zone in the Suez Canal, where the government is giving a lot of incentives to the FDIs to come and invest. So unfortunately, it's giving investment incentives to the FDIs and trying to give more, what I can say, to give them more facilities to try to attract them. This is good, but it should be run carefully, because you don't do this on the expense of the country in the future. But some of the countries, they started to give a lot of incentives, and a lot of reform had been done for some of them. And Egypt is one of, we are the country who are an example of this, and we had done a lot of effort for this to try to attract FDI, even for the period before Corona and even after Corona, as a way or as a mean to attract this type of cash coming into our country and to bring more economic opportunities.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, next question is from Abneet Kaur from BCom 4th Sem. Abneet, good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And teachers, ma'am, my question is, does FDI successfully lead to sustainable development?
Do what? Do FDI lead to sustainable development?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it depends on the government. Yeah, guys, I want to tell you something. Sometimes you will have this type of wordings, and I read a lot about the international reports coming from different international organizations. They have good analysis of the economic phenomena. They have a good analysis of the countries and for the governments. But there is a big thing about it. We don't take anything in its abstract term, meaning what? If it had been said that FDI will lead to sustainable development, yes, it may lead to sustainable development, but if the government is putting the right policies and the right regulations to use these foreign direct investors in this direction. But if the government is not working on the true channel and the right means to encourage the FDI to achieve a sustainable development, so I think the FDI at this step will just coming into the country, and they are going to get profit from our lands, and they're just leaving after they just make whatever the number of profits that they had made, and there's no sustainable development. Creating sustainability or sustainable development, from my point of view, means a better use of resources, respecting our cultures, preserving our environment, and creating more value added in our economy, and also creating more value added to our small and medium enterprises. So for any FDI who would create all these 5 elements, so definitely there will be sustainable development and there will be a value added and a benefit to the whole economy. But for any FDI who does not respect our culture, preserving our environment, also providing the labor with the rights and good wages, and if they're not creating a value added for our economy, they're just creating a value added from using our resources and just exporting, and that's it. So at this case, this is not a sustainable development at all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Next question is from Salini Shio of BBA 4th semester.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. Firstly,
Good morning.
thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. It was
Thank
really
you.
helpful. So, ma'am, my question for you is that how money printing by global central banks will impact the flow of FDI in economic development?
How what? I'm sorry.
How the money printing by global central banks will impact the flow of FDI in economic development?
The printing of the global central bank?
Yes, ma'am. How money printing by global central banks will impact the flow of FDI in economic development?
I will tell you something. It's not about printing money. It's not about how the central banks, maybe it would have an effect on the FDI inflow or outflow. It depends on the interest rate that had been put by the central banks. It's not about printing money, because we don't want printing money, and we don't want this type of ways and means to I see it. It's not an efficient policy anymore. But it's about the interest rate, how the interest rate would either to encourage or discourage the FDI. How maybe for some of the central banks around the world, if they are encouraging or putting a lot of interest rate for money coming into a certain countries, if a certain country is putting a huge amount or a big interest rate on certain deposits at to come into our lands for deposits, for example, of course, the foreign direct investor will prefer at this time to put his money in deposits at certain central banks in some countries, rather than investing it in a type of projects. So it depends also in the foreign investor decision. If he would like to just put his money in cash in the central bank for a certain country to get a certain interest rate, or he would prefer to put his money in projects. So it all his decision. And also, I think for the time of COVID-19 and the time of the crisis that we do have, if the central banks are putting for example, a high interest rate for deposits, this will not be in favor for the economy, because this will create more recession, because you will encourage more foreign investors to invest in deposits in certain countries, whether this country is in Africa and Asia and whatever. So I see it's not good for the sake of the worldwide and for the global economy to have high interest rate for deposits, for example, put by the central banks. But sometimes for some countries, if they would like to attract more of the foreign currencies, they would do that. They would put a high interest rate for whatever deposit to be put in their central banks, to be able to get more of foreign currency coming into a country. And it is a way or indirect way to get FDI also. Because, for example, for a country in Africa, for example, who would like to get more FDI by indirect way, they would do this. They would pay more as an interest, what I say that. In favor for a higher interest rate to get this money or to get this foreign currency into the country, which is not a good thing for the global economy. Now, to deal with this crisis, there should be more encouragement for more, if possible, for more work, for more small and medium enterprises, also projects, because now the focus is on more effort for the SMEs. A lot of countries now, a lot of governments, I think India also is doing this, and here in Egypt we are doing this, putting a lot of focus on small and medium enterprises sector and on small projects to at least absorb part of unemployment that have been happened because of the shrinkage of the FDI coming into our countries.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Next question is from Ashish Nanda from BBA first semester.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
My question is that how learning global economics can take from the pandemic COVID-19 in relation to the economic development.
No, I'm sorry, would you please repeat your question because the voice was not clear?
Okay, ma'am. What learnings can the global economies can take from COVID-19 pandemic in relation to the economic development?
No, I didn't get it. Can you please just yes.
Ma'am, he is asking what learnings global economies can take from the COVID-19 pandemic in relation to economic development.
Yes, of course, the world had learned a lot. The world had learned a lot. The global economy had learned a lot, but still part of the world economy did not learn any of the learning lessons. But if we talk about the global economy and what are the main lessons learned related to economic development, first and second and third and fourth and maybe to the 100th times, it is the health sector. Investing in health sector and investing in one of the important sectors of whatever we can imagine. COVID-19 had brought the issue of the importance of investing in health, the importance of research and development in health, because without having healthy humans, we don't have economic development. And this is the number one lessons learned to the global economy. If they would like to achieve economic development, GDP growth is good, FDI is good, all of the economic indicators, this is very good. What we had talked about in this session is very good, but the most important thing is people themselves. You have to invest in education and you have to invest in health. So this is the first learning lesson from COVID-19, the importance of health sector and investing in health. This is number one. Number two, the importance of research and development. And also, we are now talking about digitalization and digital economies and how that we are looking for new means of production, new means of thinking, this type of new types of intelligence, industrial intelligence. All of these are new means, techniques, all these apps, we have it, applications, we have it everywhere to run our life and to run every single moment from our life. All this type of innovations, technologies, R&D, all of this have become part of our life. I think that the world leaders had also had a learning lesson about they have to cooperate in a way or another, because having this type of looking to our interests and no more than our interests. So I would say that our interests will be destroyed in a moment when we have just a small virus coming into our country and we don't have a vaccination for it. So again, there should be some sort of cooperation, even they have their own political, economic interests still on the ground. But economic development, exchanging, especially with the poorer part of the world, because we cannot neglect the poorer part of the world. We cannot neglect Africa. We cannot neglect these parts of the world anymore, because from these parts of the world, we are getting our raw material and we are getting a lot of things. So if the developed countries still neglect this poorer part of the world, so there will be problems. So again, for the developed ones, they have to support as much as they can the less developed ones. And I do hope that they will do this, because a lot of speeches have been said and by the world leaders that they are going to support the poorer part of the world. And it had been said for maybe 100 years till now. Do they do this? Do they actually learn the lesson that they have to support a lot of poor countries, and they have to look that there is a long run interest coming from supporting others? So I hope that this will be part of the lessons learned related to economic development.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, a few more questions left, ma'am. Can we take that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, next question is from Durga Prasad Roy from BCom second sem.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Durga Dasra, a student of BCom second semester.
Hello.
And my question is, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm
My
following.
next question
Yes,
is there
you can
any
ask.
relationship between inflation and flow of foreign direct investment? If yes, how it impacts the economy?
The relation between inflation and FDI?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. The inflation for any country is not a good sign for the FDI. One of the important indicators for any foreign investor who would like to invest in a certain country is to look for a lot of course, what we call macroeconomic indicators. One of these indicators are the inflation rate. If the country is facing a huge inflation rate, of course, the FDI will not work in this country. I will tell you why. Because high inflation rate means high prices for the land. If you're going to rent land, for example, or buy a piece of land, high prices for the wages, or high whatever he has to pay high wages, because there is a high prices and inflation in this country. So he has to pay good wages for the labor. So this means that he will pay a high wage relative to any other country. So all of this will be an adding cost to his investment. The inflation rate also means that, or the high inflation rate in general is not a good indicator for any investor, because also it gives a picture or an image of a degree of what we can say a variability of this economy, that if we are now from a year to another, we are just having a high inflation rate by 10, 20, 30% than the previous year. This is not a good indicator about the economy under any circumstances. So a high inflation or an inflation rate, it is one of the important indicators for any foreign investor coming into any country. So it's one of the economic indicators that is totally discouraging FDI.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, next question is from Arthitwa of BBA second sem.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, myself Arthitwa from BBA second semester. So my question is, along with FDI, what are the other factors are important for the economic revival in the view of COVID-19 pandemic?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Would you please, my dear, just repeat his question?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, along with FDI, what are the other factors that are important for the economic revival in the view of COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes. What are the other factors that are important for the economic revival rather than the FDI?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Yes, I agree with you. The FDI, it's a part of the equation, but having other important factors for any economy to achieve a revival from COVID-19 is to focus on other sectors, like to focus on enhancing more the small and medium enterprises sector, to focus more on research and development in health sector, to focus more on education. I mean, the revival from COVID-19, it needs, like what I can say, it needs a lot of factors to work all together for the revival, which will be slow revival under any means. Also, find a new means for manufacturing, to find the new opportunities worldwide. If I'm going as a country to export to a certain places around the world. So for the Indian companies, for example, to find new opportunities worldwide. So I think we should think out of the box and looking for opportunities that may exist in Africa, for example, part of the world that most of us we forgot. Looking for more unused chances is important. Working on the current education and health factors is important. Relying more on the local industry, which is right. And I believe in this now after the crisis that we do have. And now for our economies like India, like Egypt, we have a lot of youth, we have a lot of potential, we have a lot of human factor, we have a lot of productivity out there. So why don't we use this and make use of this efficiently to achieve some sort of recovery? But again, the recovery will not be easy because it will be slow recovery. And again, we are linked with the world economy, which is also will have a slow recovery. So it's all unfortunately, it all interlinks to each other. But we do hope for our country that we would recover soon, and we would build on what had been achieved in the last year, or the year before, or whatever reform had been achieved in health or in education. We should build more on this, and we are trying to look for more new opportunities, which is very important.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the next question is from Devanshu Patnaik of BBA first semester.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. My question is that, ma'am, can these global companies can increase standard of the people of the COVID-19 after some years?
Please, yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Ma'am, I'm asking that can these global companies can increase standard of the people after some years after COVID-19, those people who are jobless in society?
Yes. He's asking, would you please, my dear, just help me? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. He is asking whether the investment of global companies would be able to increase the standard of living of the people during this COVID-19.
Yes, of course. The investment that is coming of FDI will lead to enhancing the standard of living of population. Your question was mainly more on vulnerable and more poorer part of the world. This is your question, right? Right? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I will tell you something. Now for the literature and for the what I had read lately, they're starting to re-evaluate the effect of FDI on human development. This is why there is a new index, which is called Adjusted Human Development Index. To what extent the FDI will lead to a better living standards. So please, I would like you to read more on this because it is very interesting topic, the FDI and the adjusted HDI index. So now, before we used to have and to read that FDI definitely will lead to more human development factor or more better standard of living. So what we do mean by standard of living? Standard of living, this is a very broad thing. So we measure the standard of living by human development index. So when they started to put the equality in what we call adjusted human development index, they started to see something else. For some nations, maybe FDI will lead to better standard of living, but for others, it will not lead to this. It depends on the degree of equality, the degree of ensuring equity in a certain societies. So if we have in a certain economy, a good level of health services, a good level of education, people are receiving good types of services, a decent income, a decent educational level. So definitely we are, as a population of this nation, will benefit from this foreign investor. But if the FDI is coming into a nation, for example, in a country where we have low level of education, low health services, inequality, there is no equality in our society. So definitely we are, as a population of this country, will not be able to benefit from the FDI. So it depends on the environment existed in a certain country, whether it support its citizens to get the benefit and the fruits from those foreign investors or not. If the environment is good, if people are educated, if people are in good health, if people are receiving a good income, if there are policies and regulations that protect the laborers, so definitely FDI will have an effect in our standard of living. But if the case is this, but if we have other way around, so definitely the FDI will not achieve a better standard of living. This will not be happening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Moving on to the last question, Aditi Chaudhary from BBA first.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, my question is why there will be more inflow of FDIs to the East Asia, especially to the China. Like China, why was the economy of China is so sustained, even if it was the surge of COVID-19?
Yes.
Origin of COVID-19.
Yes, yes. The economy of China was so sustained for even for the COVID-19. It's no way, for the USA, like, they cannot do anything.
Like, yes, ma'am. Developed countries like US, there was a downflow, like the downflow in economy, but China was not, means it is surging, upsurging.
There's no way. China, I will tell you, my dear, and there is outflow is coming from China to Africa. Which is so, which is, I think that having COVID-19 in China and all of this crisis started there shouldn't be an outflow from China to Africa. No, China is existing to put an FDIs in Africa because of their interest in Africa. So yes, I will tell you something. For some countries who were resilient in dealing with the crisis, getting more FDIs, these are the countries who were able to deal efficiently with the crisis. Even if there is a crisis, even if there is a transforming of the virus, but they were able to handle and to deal with the crisis. They were able to maintain even their interests. And by all means, my dear, India is one of these countries, although you have this crisis, I know, of course, this new level and new cycle of COVID-19, but also India, there are still some of the FDIs, they are coming into also the Indian countries, because at the end of the day, some of these foreign investors, they're still looking for opportunities. So where they would put their money, if they didn't put their money in deposits somewhere in central banks, if they didn't put their money wherever in a place in the world, so they can put their money in safe countries, or they do feel that it is one of the safest countries, even if there is a crisis. And again, we go back to the issue of policies and regulations that would encourage FDIs, and also the inflation rate, and also the level of education and the level of, even if we have a crisis for the health sector, but again, we have a good quality of labor. So all of this is still attracting points for the FDIs, even if there is a crisis. Here, for example, in Egypt, we had done a lot of changes and reform in policies and regulations. We have done a lot of infrastructure projects, although we have the crisis out there. Why? Because we are trying here actually in Egypt, and the government of Egypt is trying to be more resilient and to deal with the crisis, because government everywhere, what they should do, they shouldn't stop working, and they shouldn't stop attracting more FDIs because of, again, of the growth of the economies and the growth of our economies, and also for guaranteeing more inflow of opportunities, and for job opportunities, and for more inflow of new technologies into our countries. I would give you also another reason for why maybe the FDIs or China or India or some of the countries are still receiving an FDIs. The type of industries there and the type of investments that those FDIs are investing in, if they are looking for investment in innovative technology or ICT or whatever, so they definitely will look for the Asian countries, and this is why they have to go for the Asian countries, which is very important. Here for Egypt, for example, we had made also a diversity for the FDIs. So the FDIs is coming to for some of the sector. One of the sectors that are attracting FDI, although we have a crisis here in Egypt, is the construction sector, petroleum and no exploration for petroleum and gas in the Mediterranean Sea. So for each country, some countries and some governments, for some countries, they were smart enough again to look for maybe hidden opportunities that will support or at least will guarantee a sustainable flow of FDI, even if there is a crisis.
Very correctly, my dear students, when there is any crisis or there is any problem, how you can manage, that is important, right? So if you can, the way I always mention, if you can convert the challenges into opportunity, so how you are capable to manage that, on that basis, you will be having your output. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a great session.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I'm very happy that my students clarified many questions, and particularly I have enjoyed the session. So actually in other programs, students are not very comfortable to put the question. But as I mentioned, you are the part of our system. So that might be the indication by which students are able to have series of the question and clarified.
I'm so happy. Of course, I was honored, and it gave me a pleasure to answer their questions. And I'm so happy that they were encouraged to bring more questions. And this is why Dr. Mishra, you are doing and bringing this type of webinars and new sessions and experts from different parts of the world. So to encourage your students to be engaged and to ask questions, and also to question what's happening around us, which is very important. And again, how to create, I agree with you, Dr. Mishra, how to create opportunities from challenges. And this is the new, and this is what we can say, this is the new normal that we are going to live. And thank you, Dr. Mishra, for giving me the opportunity. It was a great thing and I enjoyed a lot. And I hope that I can also give more webinars and lectures. I'm ready anytime. So thank you so much, Dr. Mishra. And thank you so much, my dear. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I must mention that all the participants did really get their knowledge nurtured through all this valuable interactive session, where the able expert expressed her scholarly opinion on the topic. Moving ahead, I would like to state that we all are indebted to our beloved parents, revered gurus. Thus, how can we cease from bestowing due respect to our guests who have added more values to this e-expert talk? Yes, I mean reverend guest of this program. Thus, I request the reverential guest, Dr. G.A.V. Nawar, to kindly accept an e-document as a token of gracefulness and good wishes on behalf of the entire fraternity of Team DSP. I would like to request Technical Coordinator Ritwik Mahanti to do the needful.
Thank you so much. It was so nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. It had reminded me with the nice and pleasure and wonderful time I had it with the D.A.V College 2-3 years ago before COVID-19. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Beautiful memories to be in India.
Thank you, ma'am. We commemorate every special moment with a good group photograph, and hence I request everyone to kindly switch on their videos and look into the cameras. Simultaneously, I would like to request technical coordinator Ritik to do the needful.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, done.
Okay, thank you, Ritvik.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now that we have reached the concluding part of this program, I would like to call Sanskriti Tanaya of BBA second semester to give the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Renowned French painter Alfred Agache once stated, saying thank you is more than good manners. It is good spirituality. A very good afternoon to one and all. I am Sanskriti Tanaya, a BBA second semester student of this prestigious institution, and I'm glad enough to get such an immense opportunity to put forward the all-valuable vote of thanks in such an educated session. At the onset, it is an honor for me to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the reverend expert of the session, Dr. Zeenal Mohammed Nawaz, for her gracious presence and alluring words. Ma'am, thank you very much for your time. Shukran Jazalan Yala Batik. I also encompass the moment to express my profound gratefulness to our very own principal, Dr. D.N. Mishra, for time and again giving us opportunity to be a part of such educated session. Thank you so very much, sir, for all that you're doing tirelessly for our development. I must also extend my deepest acknowledgement to the moderator of this event, Mrs. Jayashree Swine, for her valued contribution. Much gratitude, ma'am. I cannot stop myself from extending loads of gratefulness to the coordinator of TSPM, Dr. Anjali Panda, as well as respected members of the Faculty Council and the Staff Council of DSPM for their guidance, timely help, and support. Thank you. My sincere acknowledgement also goes to the budding managers of DSPM, the event management team for their involvement in the event, especially Archita Mahapatra for delivering the welcome address and Ritvik Mohanty for technically decorating the event. Last but not the least, I bestow my loads of acknowledgements to the treasured audience for their participation. Thank you. Have a pleasant moment ahead.
Thank you, Sanskriti.
Madam, thank you. Namaskar. We are looking forward your association with this small and beautiful institution. Madam, I just want to mention that we are going to soon, and we will be starting one journal where I'll be requesting you, I'll be sending the proposal to be the member of the editorial board. It will be our pleasure to be part of that. We are in the process, as you know, that COVID-19 already derailed the process of growth and development, and particularly it is having adverse impact in all self-financing institutions. Madam, you will agree with me because my job is both administration and academics. You'll understand that. So very soon we are going to do that, and we are looking forward on the behalf of all students community of D.A.V School of Business Management and all faculty council members. I convey my sincere thanks and namaskar to you, and we are looking forward your association with a small and beautiful institution which created some space with you so that we can go for further development of this institution in the years to come. Thank you, Madam. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time with us at the BOE, British University in Egypt, and definitely again and again. You can recognize me as a part of your institution, and I do appreciate your working hard and trying to direct the student and bring a lot and different means of knowledge to your students and to your institution. And this is what eventually the good leader and the good professor, actually, I see you as a model of professor and a model of a true hardworking professor, even if we have a crisis here worldwide. And this is what we should do everywhere. So thank you, Dr. Mishra, for this nice actually event. I enjoyed a lot. I enjoyed the questions and I enjoyed the presentation and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
I would be happy to be part of the editorial board for the journal. And you can, whatever you would like to ask me to support, I'm ready anytime to help, of course.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
my
you,
dear.
all the viewers. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.